time for our love segment where emotional first aid is our specialty. Is it safe to return to the family that once institutionalized you? Can endless TikTok scrolling trigger personality fractures? And for the single mom, do you march in Father's Day parade or skip the shame? Let's dig in.
Let's
Deal with this kind of thing.
Okay.
So we're just going to start off with this because the first one is a difficult one that we're going to probably spend some time on. So let's just go ahead and get this thing started.
Yes. If your family has had you institutionalized more than once, is it ever safe to go back to them for healing? Or will they just reinforce the trauma and possibly do it again?
Well, I suppose it depends on why you were institutionalized.
Yes.
If you were dealing with, say, bipolar issues and you're bouncing left all over the place, and they did it for your safety and the family's safety, you should, as difficult as it is, you should thank them for that. Assuming that the place they sent you was, maybe they sent you to some place that wasn't a trustworthy environment, shall we say.
Yes.
Not every institution does the job they should, shall we say. So maybe you got sent to a poor institution, or were you dealing with, shall we say, our personal identity issues, and they were uncaring about the struggle you were going through and decided to send you to some institution to help you through it. That wasn't very helpful. That's being rejected from your family rather than them showing care and sending you, trying to find professionals that can help you through a difficult emotional time. Right? There's a spectrum that on this issue, that one's very good where people are trying to care for you and they're not qualified, so they're sending you to an institution who can care for you.
Yes.
And another is them rejecting you and sending you to an institution to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed.
Okay, yes.
That needs understanding from their parents, not repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two vastly different things, and there's some room in between, but not much. There's not a lot of gray area in there. Right? You're either suffering tremendously, through something, and your parents are trying to help you through it and sending you to professionals to do it, or they're just not accepting for who you are. But that's a different issue. So those are two different issues. And without knowing the reasoning behind the institutionalized, we're guessing.
Yes.
So here's the thing. If you were dealing with schizophrenia, bipolar, severe depression, any of these kind of issues, and your parents institutionalize you for that, then they're trying to do the right thing. Even if you got to the wrong institution, they were trying to do the right thing.
Yes.
And so you approach it from that angle, and then you return. And I ended up going to the wrong place, but that's not necessarily their fault. They didn't know. Maybe it's the one their insurance sent you. Maybe it's the one that's nearby. Whatever decision they had to make, it's the one they could afford.
Yes.
But if they were rejecting you as a human being and sent you to an institution to attempt to fix you because of that, then you have a right to not go back. And it might even be the right thing.
That would be wise.
Now, they may have changed their perspective some. They may have softened their stance over time. People change. People also can harden their stance, and people can change. The people who used to be soft may now not be. So, there's a danger in that sense of going back. But if it's the first one, if you're dealing with genuine psychological issues, then they didn't reject you. They were doing their best to help you. And then they are safe to go back.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you aren't dealing with your issues and they can see that. But I'm assuming they're an adult now. They can't institutionalize you the way they used to be able to as a child. So that danger is, not just the danger, but unless you aren't taking care of yourself. And in that case, maybe you need someone to tell you need to take care of yourself properly. I got a suspicion, given the way the world is, and the kind of the way the question was asked, that it's more of an identity issue. That they were rejected by their parents, and these were sent somewhere to try to be fixed.
Yeah, that's the sense I got.
But the other one, we've had lots of people who have parents institutionalize them, trying to deal with their depression, or maybe their pyromania, or had an issue with the 5-finger discounts or something, and they get sent to an institution to try to deal with that, and they feel it's an attack on them as human beings rather than I don't know how to deal with you. You could be an uncontrollable child and get sent to an institution. They didn't say it was a mental institution. It's worded cryptically, so it can go either way. You're sent to an institution. My stepsister was sent to an institution because she was uncontrollable. But it wasn't, it was a school. Kind of like a boarding school, right? Just one step shy of military school kind of thing. It happens. It's not a big deal. It happens to lots of kids. And some people find that as a more traumatic experience than others. So
Yes.
It kind of depends. So there even is a third answer in there. It could be somewhere in between. But they just didn't know how to deal with you, and they sent you off to, what you're calling an institution, the rest of us call boarding schools, or schools for the incorrigible, or whatever. And it's still parents doing the best they can. In that case, it's just kind of, I don't know what else to do with you.
I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clearly you need something different than I can give. And so you give it an environment where at least you're not a danger to society. So I don't know. So it kind of depends. If it's one of those two where someone was actually trying to help you, then yeah, of course they're safe. If it's the third one where someone has rejected your identity and we haven't shown signs of perspective change, then you probably best staying away for a while, longer.
Much longer.
So
Don't know.
yeah. Okay. What's next?
Can short form social media content, Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, develop borderline personality due to personality disorder in a person that doesn't have it?
I suppose if someone was prone to it but hadn't experienced the trigger thing, that could be a trigger. But I would suspect that only people who are kind of prone to that type of personality disorder would be impacted by it.
Yes.
I suspect, not being a doctor of any form or studied this in any way, just kind of guessing from
experience.
Well, experience, and I do read a lot, and I haven't. And there's disagreement in how emotionally damaging, psychologically damaging, modern social media use may or may not be. It kind of depends how you want to interpret the data. It's how you can interpret the data, which is the problem of much data, which means the reality is still gray. If two people can use the same set of data and make essentially the competing arguments against for themselves, then there's nothing clear in the data. The data is unclear.
Okay.
I mean, just by definition.
True.
So the data is unclear. But if someone is prone to some form of personality disorder, and that happens to be a trigger for it, that wouldn't surprise me. If someone's prone to paranoia and they're flipping TikTok, and the way the algorithms work, they click on a certain type of video that triggers their paranoia, they're going to get fed that more and more and more. And so they're going to click those kind of things more. It's a self-fulfilling loop.
Yes.
They interact with the things that interest them, which happens to be something that feeds their paranoia. So the algorithm feeds them more of the stuff. Hey, they're interested in this kind of stuff. We're going to give you this kind of stuff. And that's the feedback loop that can make it worse. But I don't think it can create it. would be my.
Yeah, I can't see how it could create it.
I can see how it might take someone who's borderline
If you're borderline.
and push it over.
Okay.
But anything can do that at that stage, right? If you're borderline, you can come across anything that a theoretical trigger and push it over. It could be you could catch a late night radio host, and next thing you know, you're obsessing over the guy who does, Ghost to Coast late night. And you're waiting for him to talk about aliens. All the thing. Next thing you know, you're off on some paranoid alien tangent, right? All because you were driving late one night. It can happen. These people who are borderline, you never know what that trigger is. They could just stumble across the trigger, and so TikTok or social media would be the same thing. It's not really the responsibility of social media because someone gets triggered by it. There's not really much else can do. Life is life. So, anyway, okay, what's next?
Let's see.
We're right here.
Does anyone else kind of let their kids do whatever? 5 and 7.
Well, those of us who were Gen Xers, that's just how we were raised.
That's how we were raised. Yeah.
I more or less raised my kids like that. Well, as much as you could get away with at the time. And I suspect that's probably the same answer for kids these days. As much as you can get away with, people are doing it. Because it's how more than half people want to raise their kids. Because freedom comes education, We learned a lot with all that freedom we had.
We sure did.
Weeded out the dumb, Stupid should hurt. It did when we were kids.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did hurt.
That taught us lessons. Hey, let's jump our bikes off of the loading ramp at the local grocery store. Sure, why not? It's all fun and games until one person's frame snaps, and next thing you know, you're eating pavement and bicycles in your balls. Sure, it's all great. No, nobody else does that anymore because we all learned our lesson. Yeah. Oh, break your bike. We didn't actually care that you got hurt. We got hurt ourselves all the time. It was the broken bike was the catastrophe. The road rash will heal. It's the broken bike, man.
What are you gonna do now?
Yeah, that was a catastrophe. We didn't know how to weld. We couldn't put the bike back together. It's broken in half. How do you do that? I guess that ramp was a little too high. So you're not alone. Lots of people try to do that. It's getting more and more difficult these days. But if you live in small towns rather than cities, you can probably get away with it more than others. One of our theories was we treated the children a year older than they actually were.
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the things we did. So, okay.
What humbled you as a smug full-time parent?
I don't know if I was ever a smug full-time parent. So.
I hear that.
I don't think those things necessarily go together, unless maybe you're just a parent of a single child. I guess you can get smug.
But you know how you start out, I'm gonna do a garden and I'm gonna puree their own homemade food, and we're gonna be part of mommy club, and everybody's gonna get along.
No, see what no matter how good of a parent you are, your children will humble you at some point simply by asking them an embarrassing question at their worst time ever. Or mentioning,
something.
They're going through potty training, and they're going to tell the whole everybody at this big business party about how, they pooped Mr. Panky or something, whatever it's going to be. It's going to be the most catastrophic thing because that's what children do. So I don't actually remember much about being humbled as a parent. The things you remember are trying to figure out how to deal with the exploded diaper and now the ruined car seat, and you still got 6 hours of a road trip to finish. And you could throw the clothes away and whatever, you buy new baby clothes, that's fine. But what do you do with this car seat? We're in the middle of nowhere, and what do we do with this? How do we? Yeah, those are the things that humble you as a parent. You've got to figure that mess out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took a 6-year-old from Texas to Eureka, California,
Yeah,
nursing,
a 6-year-old.
6-week-old.
Oh, yeah, that's not very. Yeah, that's a rough one because you stop in every hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a long journey.
It was.
All right.
Okay. Religious indoctrination via in-laws. Now, they decided they aren't going to raise their child in any one religion. They
Okay.
were going to let it choose.
Okay.
But and I remember this, the Jewish mother-in-law said, "You don't understand. You're not Jewish. You can't do this."
Well, Jewish people do it all the time, but
I know.
But they're not indoctrinating their grandchild. They're sharing their culture, and for you to expect them not to share their culture is just as wrong as if they try to impose it. You get to control some aspect of what to share and how your child can respond to that. But you should, regardless, and the same goes through the husband, the other side as well. Her side of the family, if they're religious, you should allow your child to experience that too. Allow them to share that as well. They can't choose if you don't allow them to share, to be part of it. They're part of both of these cultures. They're part of, 3 cultures probably.
Yes.
My suspicion is, one parent is Jewish, one parent is some kind of Christian,
Yes.
some form of Christian, and they've decided to raise their child as neither. As we're going to let the child kind of experience what they want to do, and if they want to be religious or not, that will be their choice as an adult. But they can't make that choice if they don't get to experience. You're denying them that experience is denying them that choice. I know it doesn't feel that way, but that's what you're actually doing. So as long as you're allowing, kind of equal access, your child isn't being indoctrinated. They're just participating in your family's culture. They're your family now too. You don't have to participate it as enthusiastically as they do, but you should experience it. It's part of your culture now.
It's part of your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to pick and choose which parts you get to participate in and how enthusiastically you have to participate in, but you should participate in some because it's your family now. So let your child participate. It's not indoctrination. Don't think of it that way. So, okay.
I agree.
All right, what's next?
My son wants to go on strike. He's 17.
Uh-huh.
There has been a shift change.
Yeah.
And they want him to work like on a Saturdays, but it's still the same, 30-hour week.
Yeah, shifts change.
He's protesting. He's going on strike, he said.
Good luck with that. You don't get to. It's not how that works. I mean, you can. I suppose technically it does work like that. You can personally go on strike. They're not going to care. They're just going to replace you because you're 17. You're low man on the totem pole. That's why your shift got changed. You accept it, and the better you accept it, and move on is the sooner you get to be part of the group that gets the shift they want. The people who get the shifts they want are the people that can be relied on, that don't need a lot of management, that don't whine because they have to work a different shift every now and again. Those are the people who get rewarded long term. All you're doing is showing yourself to be a pain in the butt. And yeah, you're going to get the worst shifts and the worst jobs. And because why would they do anything different to you? We talked about at the beginning of the show, or, the beginning of the recording last week's show about, how to, as the other side of the equation, if you want your employees to be loyal to you, you have to show the same loyalty, if not more, to your employees. Works on the other foot as well.
It does.
If you want your boss to give you the good shifts, you have to be willing to work the bad ones. Then you become a reliable person. Next thing you know, you get to choose your shifts because you're the one with the keys and the code. So, put your time in, my friend. You don't get to start at the top of the totem pole. You start at the bottom, you take the worst shifts, you do those with a smile, and next thing you know, you don't have to do them anymore. Or they pay you more to manage those shifts. Those are the rewards that you get from being willing to do the less desirable tasks, the less desirable shifts. You actually do get rewarded for them eventually. You just have to earn your time. All right, Mrs. Hiccup.
I rarely get hiccups, excuse me.
Okay. Let's see if we can get through it.
Feel like I've lost part of myself after a traumatic childbirth.
I can see that.
It takes a while to get back to your old self again. It's your new self because, hello, now you have a child.
Well, in theory, it's no different than anybody who's had some kind of traumatic experience, injury, right? It takes a while to trust yourself. It takes a while to feel normal again. It just does. And you may never feel normal, especially depending upon how traumatic it was. If it was a near-death experience, you may never feel like you used to. Not because you're not physically healed, but you came close to death. That's meaningful to some people.
Yes.
And so you may never feel the same, right or wrong. You may, at some point, you may appreciate the experience more than you do now. I'm not going to say you want it again. I'm just saying that it may give you a new perspective on life that you wouldn't have otherwise had. And you come to appreciate that as you become older. It's a strange way of saying that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
No one said, yes, I want to go through that traumatic experience. No one wants to do that, but you come out of it oftentimes if you go through the process properly, you come out of it a stronger, better human being. And
maybe try talking to your doctor about a specific type of counseling. Someone who specializes in this type of thing, has some experience with it.
And, someone like me who blew his knee up at 20 in his 20s, right? It's never the same. I used to be able to grab a backboard. Now I'm lucky to touch I used to be able to grab a hold of a basketball ring. Now I'm lucky to be able to hit the freaking net. That's a good foot and a half. So in a sense, never the same. It wasn't necessarily a traumatic injury, but never the same.
Yeah.
So you're a wholly different person in a sense. But, life moves on. You'll be all right, is the message I want to send. Sure, I'm no longer a basketball player. Guess what? I was never really that good of a basketball player. Yeah, sure, I could go and play on the basketball courts at downtown with all the, the courts players and not embarrass myself. But I was never playing in any form of organized professional basketball or anything like that. It wasn't happening. I was never that. I had the skills of an inside player and the body of an outside player, right? I was mismatched, and it was never going to work. But I have no idea where I've gone on this one. I left the reservation some time ago. It happens on occasion. You talk yourself into this. I had a point at some point, but I forgot what it was and lost it.
I think the point is that you will change, and it takes time to get there. It takes time before you feel I'm okay again.
Oh, I do remember what I was going on out there. The event was at some point I tested myself. After that, I went and climbed the Half Dome at Yosemite. Something I have no interest in doing before or afterward. And, it wasn't an interest. I'm not someone who wants to go on a tough, difficult, long hike. But I wanted to test my knee so I could trust it. And so I made it up to the top, made it back down, so I could trust my knee. Sure, I'm not the same person I was not nearly as athletic as I was, but I am still me. Yeah, you are still you. Yeah, and you will come to a point where you can trust whatever part of you that you don't trust right now. You will get it back. You'll find some way to retrust it. She doesn't trust herself. Whatever part of herself, some part of herself failed her. Her knee, my knee blew out. Some part of herself failed her. We don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't trust herself at the moment. So at some point she'll find something to do to trust herself. She'll run a marathon, or she'll choose some task, as a feeling moment. I still have a shirt, so I made it to the top, right? That's my yeah. That's the healing moment, right? It wasn't the recovery. The healing moment was actually getting back down, but that wasn't. Getting up was easy. The actual test was getting back down, and I always knew that, by the way, because you put far more strain on your knees going down than going up. But the actual test was getting down from the top, not getting to the top. But she'll find that moment. She'll find that thing where she feels healed. She may never be the same, but she'll feel healed. Yeah. So that was my point. All right. We kicked that one around for a while. All right. What's next?
Father's Day parade at school. Single mom to a 3-year-old female. Should I go instead?
I understand the desire. Let me be clear. I completely understand the desire. But it's not your day. You have Mother's Day. That's what Mother's Day is for. And I understand that maybe you want to do it for your child. That you don't want your child to feel left out. Then find the father figure in your child's life, whoever that is. It may not be a man, right? It doesn't have to be a man. Find the father figure in your child's life and ask them to do it.
Yes.
That's the, because you're the mom. You're not two people. You can't fill both roles, so don't try. Find a father figure. And again, the father figure doesn't have to be a man. It just has to be someone who fills that role that you can't. And it's not from lack of effort, and it's not that you don't do the best you can, and it's not this, but it's best when you have someone else to fill that father role. It's just like I was having a discussion with a coworker the other day. Sometimes, I have the opportunity to get to work with a child, and there's things that I can't have in the conversation. So coworkers get to have it, because I can't have these conversations. I'm quasi boss, but not. I'm also father, but not. So some of these conversations that are personal, I can't really have. Because they're quasi personal, they're quasi business, but they're neither. They're mentorship. This is kind of thing. And it comes differently from a parent than it does from a coworker who's experienced. Yes, especially someone who's got more experience in certain fields. Anyway, So the point is that sometimes you need someone else to offer different perspectives to help raise a child, to help mentor a person, to help. Don't try to play all roles. You will fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So find the mentor. Find your child's father figure, whoever that may be. Whoever it may be. There is a father figure in that child's life, or there should be. And if you can't figure one out, the person who's playing that fatherly role, then find one. And find one soon. Because they'll need that. So that's my suggestion. But I suspect that there's a father figure in that child's life. Send that person. Okay.
My 8-year-old son keeps taking my food. I don't know how to stop it from getting physical.
When he's 8.
He takes it off her plate. He won't let her eat in peace.
Okay, that's relatively common for an 8-year-old, but it's actually quite easy to stop children. That's light tap on the hand tells them to stop it. You don't have to do any more than that. Just don't let them. They're 8. And I don't understand this question. Are you literally afraid to slap your child's hand away? You tell them no.
Well, apparently.
Because this is the time-honored tradition of how that you solve that problem throughout the course of human history. And so it's been done for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That is not child abuse. Grabbing the wooden spoon and smashing their hand with the wooden spoon, that would be abuse. Right? There's a difference between the two, between telling them no, slapping their hand and telling them no, and grabbing a spoon and smashing your hand. You're right. There's two.
Yes.
Yeah, those are two vastly different things. One is immediate correction, and the other one is child abuse. Right? You can't have an immediate correction without it. And the goal is not to hurt. The goal is to just send this clear signal that they can't do that. And clearly you haven't taught them the meaning of no. And so now you've got some work to do.
He's confused. What do you mean no?
Yeah. This child at 8 should be past this by now. Quite frankly. Children trying to take your food is nothing new, but you should be able to look at them cross, and you get the signal that it's not time, Sometimes you let your child grab something off your plate, you don't really care, and go ahead and grab the snack, whatever. And other times you got your own dinner to eat, knucklehead. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But someone didn't teach your child the meaning of no. And you need to teach the child the meaning of no. I've never understood that parenting thing that went through. I thought we were done with that, where you know, children. I don't tell my child no. Your child better get used to being told no, because the world is full of no's.
The world is full of those.
You're going to have to understand what that is, because they're going to have to tell themselves no an awful lot in life. I want that. You don't have the money for it. That's right. No, I can't buy it. You have to do that a lot in life.
Yes.
And so they better learn how to do it, how to tell themselves no. And it starts by you telling them no. This isn't rocket science. What has happened in the world? I don't get it. I'm going to get in so much trouble for that one too. So healing isn't linear, but every question nudges us closer to wholeness. You can find us at latenightglove.us. Please hit the like, subscribe, share button, and do all that fun stuff. And so please remember, from me and Lovey, have a good night. And please remember to love everybody.